Olivia Reed had worked at Miller Enterprises for 3 months, a small role in the bustling finance department that barely hinted at her inner strength. Every day after her exhausting shift of crunching numbers, sorting paperwork, and replying to endless emails, Olivia followed a simple ritual that defined who she truly was. Without fail, she would stop by the corner market near the office. There, she would purchase modest packs of bread, juice, and granola bars before crossing the street to the company's entrance. In the cool evening air, as she stepped onto the sidewalk, she would meet a small group of homeless individuals who waited eagerly for her arrival. One crisp afternoon, as the fading sunlight bathed the pavement in a soft glow, an elderly man with a graying beard called out, "Olivia, it's so good to see you." His gentle tone was accompanied by a warm smile that lit up his weathered face. With natural grace, Olivia knelt beside him, handing over the simple yet nourishing food she had gathered. "Good evening," she replied softly, distributing the snacks among those huddled on makeshift blankets. For Olivia, this routine was more than charity. It was a way of life that filled her with quiet pride. In these moments, despite her own financial struggles, she found solace and joy in the act of giving, her heart lightened by the smiles and soft laughter of the people she helped. High above, on the 34th floor, in a spacious office adorned with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline, Nathan Drake, the stoic and formidable CEO of Miller Enterprises, had been working late into the evening. Known for his crisp suits, piercing blue eyes, and a demeanor as unyielding as steel, Nathan rarely allowed personal matters to intrude on his business. Yet, over the past few weeks, he had noticed something unusual. Every evening, after finishing his demanding day, he would catch sight of a young woman leaving the office building. At first, he dismissed it as coincidence, but soon he realized it was a deliberate, unchanging ritual. Intrigued, Nathan began to watch quietly from his office window as she crossed the street with a few grocery bags in hand, heading straight to where a small group of homeless people had gathered. The sight stirred something in him. Whereas Nathan's life was typically governed by numbers, strategies, and the cold precision of business, this simple act of kindness struck a deep, unexpected chord within him. He observed how Olivia knelt gracefully and distributed the food, her warm smile and soft, determined eyes radiating genuine compassion. It was a stark contrast to the rigid, transactional world he inhabited, a world where every interaction was measured and calculated. For a long time, Nathan had believed that success was achieved by relentless ambition and strict discipline, with little room for sentiment. But here was a young woman who, despite her modest means, devoted herself wholeheartedly to helping others without expecting anything in return. Though he remained silent and hidden behind the reflective glass of his office, Nathan's mind began to churn with questions. Who was this woman who seemed so unassuming yet possessed a quiet, inner strength? What drove her to spend her meager earnings on those in need? And, most intriguingly, why did her simple acts of kindness make him feel something he hadn't felt in years? A stirring of emotion that challenged everything he thought he knew about success and personal fulfillment. As the evening progressed, Nathan continued his work while his thoughts repeatedly returned to Olivia. The image of her, with her gentle smile and selfless nature, was etched in his mind. It wasn't long before he found himself checking his schedule not for another meeting, but to watch the building's entrance, silently hoping to catch another glimpse of her ritual. Unbeknownst to Olivia, her every compassionate act was slowly beginning to reshape the way Nathan viewed the world around him. That night, as the office lights dimmed and the city's pulse slowed to a gentle murmur, Nathan made a quiet promise to himself. He would find a way to understand what made Olivia Reed so remarkable. It was a promise born not of mere curiosity, but of a deeper, unspoken yearning, a desire to reconnect with parts of himself long buried beneath the weight of corporate ambition. In the convergence of her humble routine and his high-powered existence, a tiny spark of possibility had been ignited, a spark that might one day change both of their lives forever. The following morning, as sunlight filtered through the towering windows of the corporate building, Nathan Drake's mind was already adrift with thoughts of Olivia Reed. His usual routine of reviewing financial reports and attending back-to-back meetings felt markedly different now. Every time he glanced toward the entrance of the building, he recalled the quiet dignity with which Olivia had carried out her daily ritual. Her simple act of kindness had stirred something deep within him, a longing to understand and perhaps even to reach out. Unable to suppress his growing curiosity any longer, Nathan resolved to bridge the distance between their two worlds. He instructed his executive assistant to arrange a brief meeting with Olivia, assuring her that it would be a casual conversation. Later that afternoon, while the office buzzed with the hum of routine business, Olivia received a discreet email asking her to report to a small conference room on the 34th floor. With a mixture of apprehension and intrigue, she gathered her notepad and made her way through the bustling corridors, unaware that this summons would mark the first step toward an unexpected convergence of lives. In the quiet conference room, softly lit by natural daylight streaming through frosted windows, Nathan sat at one end of a sleek table. Dressed in his signature tailored suit, his expression was calm, yet imbued with an intensity that suggested the importance of what he was about to say. When Olivia entered, her eyes widened slightly at the sight of the imposing yet elegant room. She took a seat across from him, her heart fluttering with nervous anticipation. For a long moment, neither spoke as the silence stretched, filled with the weight of unspoken questions. Finally, Nathan broke the silence. "Olivia," he began, his voice measured and sincere, "I've noticed something about you these past few weeks." He paused, his gaze steady and unyielding. "Every evening, without fail, I see you leave the building to help those who have nothing. I can't help but wonder what drives you to do that." His words were gentle yet direct, a stark contrast to the corporate jargon that typically filled his daily conversations. Finally, Nathan broke the silence. "Olivia," he began, his voice measured and sincere, "I've noticed something about you these past few weeks." He paused, his gaze steady and unyielding. "Every evening, without fail, I see you leave the building to help those who have nothing. I can't help but wonder what drives you to do that." His words were gentle, yet direct, a stark contrast to the corporate jargon that typically filled his daily conversations. Olivia's cheeks flushed a delicate pink. I do it because I care," she answered softly, her voice tinged with the weariness of long days and quiet sacrifices. "I believe that even small acts can make a difference in someone's life. It's the only way I know to show that kindness matters." Her response, humble and heartfelt, seemed to hang in the air between them, resonating with an authenticity that Nathan found both disarming and deeply moving. Nathan leaned forward slightly, his eyes reflecting a mixture of admiration and a touch of something he couldn't yet fully name. "That's exactly it," he replied. "In my world, everything is calculated, measured, and driven by results. But what you do, your generosity, it's raw and unfiltered. It reminds me that there's more to life than just numbers and profit margins. I want to understand you better, Olivia." His tone was earnest, and for the first time, his usual businesslike demeanor gave way to a vulnerability that few had ever witnessed. Olivia felt her pulse quicken. She had always been careful to keep her work separate from her personal life, to never expect recognition beyond the quiet nods of gratitude from those she helped. Now, here was a man at the pinnacle of success, reaching out to her, not as an employee or a subordinate, but as someone genuinely curious about her heart and her values. "I'm flattered, Mr. Drake," she managed, her voice soft yet steady, "but I don't really know if I deserve such attention." There was a trace of insecurity in her words, but also a spark of hope that maybe she could be seen for more than just her role. Nathan smiled, a subtle yet warm expression that lit up his usually impassive face. "I'm not interested in titles or positions right now," he said. "I want to see the person behind the routine, the person who believes in doing what is right, even when it's not expected." He paused, then added, "I believe that your actions have value, Olivia, far beyond what any paycheck could measure." His words, simple and sincere, made the air in the room seem charged with a new kind of possibility. Their conversation meandered from practical questions about her daily routine to deeper reflections on what it meant to live a life guided by compassion. Nathan spoke of the pressures of his role and the emptiness that sometimes accompanied his relentless pursuit of success, while Olivia shared quiet details about the struggles she faced every day and the solace she found in helping those less fortunate. With each word exchanged, the gap between their worlds narrowed, a gap once defined by status and circumstance, now softened by shared values and a mutual yearning for connection. As the meeting drew to a close, both Nathan and Olivia felt that something significant had shifted. There was no grand declaration or dramatic promise, only a sincere acknowledgement that their paths had converged in a way that neither could have anticipated. Nathan stood and extended his hand, and Olivia took it with a gentle smile. "Thank you for your honesty," he said quietly, "and for showing me a glimpse of a life that matters beyond business metrics." Olivia nodded, her mind awash with conflicting emotions, nervous excitement, vulnerability, and a cautious hope. "Thank you, Mr. Drake," she replied softly. "I believe we both have much to learn from each other." As she left the conference room, the weight of the encounter lingered. Outside, the building bustled with the routine of the corporate world, but for Olivia, that small, quiet room had become a sanctuary of genuine connection. Meanwhile, Nathan lingered at his desk, gazing out at the city below, contemplating the unexpected spark that had been lit, a spark that promised to challenge everything he thought he knew about success, compassion, and the true meaning of value. In the days that followed their confidential meeting, the subtle spark ignited between Nathan Drake and Olivia Reed began to grow, even as both struggled with the realities of their contrasting worlds. Nathan, whose daily life was dominated by precision, boardroom battles, and a rigid corporate structure, found himself increasingly distracted by thoughts of Olivia. Every time he passed by the window of his corner office, he would catch a glimpse of her, quietly determined, yet radiating a humble warmth that contrasted sharply with the sterile efficiency of his world. Meanwhile, Olivia, still feeling the residual tremors of their meeting, carried a new sense of cautious hope along with the weight of her daily routine. Her shift at the finance department was as relentless as ever, yet each evening, when she stepped out of the building with her small bags from the market, she recalled Nathan's sincere words and the unusual kindness in his eyes. The convergence of their paths was further cemented when Nathan discreetly arranged for Olivia to participate in a pilot project designed to optimize the company's operational costs. This initiative, aimed at fostering fresh ideas from unexpected quarters, was meant to tap into the untapped potential within the organization. Though the decision sparked murmurs among the higher-ups, Nathan was resolute. He believed that Olivia's keen observation skills and her intrinsic empathy, qualities that had long been overlooked, could provide invaluable insights that would benefit the company. At first, Olivia was hesitant. The idea of stepping beyond her routine, of exposing her vulnerabilities in front of seasoned executives, filled her with both excitement and trepidation. However, Nathan's gentle encouragement and the promise that she would not be alone in this journey slowly coaxed her into accepting the opportunity. At a subsequent meeting in a sleek, modern conference room lined with glass panels and soft ambient lighting, Olivia found herself presenting a preliminary analysis of the department's expenditures. The room was filled with skeptical faces and hushed whispers as senior managers exchanged glances, uncertain whether a junior employee, once known only for her meticulous paperwork, could truly grasp the nuances of high-level finance. Yet, as Olivia spoke, Her words carried a quiet authority. She pointed out subtle inefficiencies in the budget allocations and identified areas where cost savings could be achieved without compromising quality. Her presentation was methodical and sincere, delivered with the kind of passion that came from years of silent perseverance. To her surprise, even the most critical executives nodded in acknowledgement. For a fleeting moment, the boardroom transformed into a space where her humble beginnings gave way to a recognized talent. Outside the confines of the corporate environment, however, the collision of their personal lives continued to intensify. Nathan's wife, Laura, began noticing a subtle but disconcerting shift in his demeanor. Their once comfortable evenings, filled with familiar conversation and shared moments of quiet domesticity, were now punctuated by long silences and fleeting glances toward the window, as if searching for something lost. Laura's concern grew, but she struggled to articulate what exactly was changing. Nathan, torn between his duty as a husband and the magnetic pull of the connection he felt with Olivia, found himself increasingly conflicted. In private moments, he would pace his penthouse office, replaying every detail of his encounters with Olivia, and questioning whether the burgeoning partnership might eventually upend the carefully balanced life he had built. As the weeks passed, the professional successes and personal dilemmas began to intermingle. Olivia, buoyed by her newfound role in the pilot project, received accolades from unexpected corners. Yet, the accolades were bittersweet. Each commendation, while validating her talent, also deepened her awareness of how far she had come from her humble beginnings. Late at night, after finishing her shift and walking the familiar route to the market, she would pause and wonder if this new role truly reflected who she was, or if it was simply a fleeting chance to be seen in a world that had always overlooked her. The conflicting emotions, pride and doubt, hope and fear, wove an intricate tapestry in her mind. One rainy evening, as droplets streaked down the windows of the corporate building and the city pulsed, with the quiet rhythm of a late autumn night, Nathan decided to confront the mounting tension. He requested a private meeting with Olivia in his office. The room, bathed in the gentle glow of a desk lamp and the distant hum of the city, felt intimate and removed from the harsh judgments of the boardroom. Nathan's tone was softer than usual as he began. "Olivia, I've been thinking about everything that's happened these past few weeks, about your work, about your kindness, and about the unique perspective you bring. I know that stepping into this new role might be overwhelming, and I want you to know that I value not only your contribution to the company, but you as a person." His eyes, usually so calculated and steely, softened with genuine concern and warmth. Olivia, sitting across from him, felt her heart beat faster as she absorbed his words. "Thank you, Mr. Drake," she replied hesitantly. "I sometimes wonder if I truly belong in this world. Every day I work so hard just to get by, and now suddenly I'm being asked to do things I never dreamed of." Nathan leaned forward, his voice earnest. "Belonging isn't about where you come from. It's about the strength you bring and the values you live by. I see something in you that others overlook, and I believe that you can make a real difference here, not just for the company, but for yourself as well." His words resonated deeply with Olivia, stirring a sense of possibility within her. Their conversation continued into the night, moving from professional aspirations to more personal reflections. Nathan shared, in measured tones, his own struggles with the isolating nature of his work and the unfulfilled yearning that had haunted him despite all his success. Olivia, in turn, recounted quiet moments of doubt and the weight of being judged by her origins. In that shared vulnerability, the boundaries between their worlds began to blur. Yet, both knew that the path forward would be fraught with challenges: public scrutiny, internal politics, and the ever-present tension between ambition and authenticity. When the meeting finally ended, Nathan walked Olivia to the door. "Thank you for your openness tonight," he said softly. "And remember, you're not alone in this journey." Olivia stepped out into the dimly lit corridor, her mind alive with the possibility of a future where her talents and compassion were valued. Though the road ahead was uncertain, she felt a quiet determination growing within her, a determination to embrace the changes, to prove to herself and to the world that she belonged. And high above, in his office overlooking the bustling city, Nathan watched the hallway with a renewed sense of hope, silently promising that the unexpected convergence of their lives was only the beginning of a transformative journey. In the weeks following their intimate conversation, the fragile bond between Nathan Drake and Olivia Reed began to stir both hope and mounting tension in their respective lives. Within the gleaming corridors of Miller Enterprises, whispers about Olivia's unexpected promotion and her newfound role as a consultant on the pilot project had spread rapidly. Some colleagues expressed genuine admiration for her sharp insight and compassion, while others cast doubtful glances, questioning whether a junior employee with humble beginnings truly belonged in the upper echelons of the company. As these murmurs grew louder, the corporate atmosphere became increasingly charged, and the weight of public scrutiny threatened to tip the balance that Nathan had so carefully tried to maintain. At the same time, Nathan's personal life was not immune to the growing storm. His wife, Laura, had always been the steady pillar in his life, but she had begun to sense a growing emotional distance between them. Their once comfortable evenings, filled with light conversation and gentle reassurances, were now punctuated by long silences and fleeting, almost regretful glances toward the door. Glances that spoke of a man whose heart was being slowly drawn away. Laura's concern grew with each passing day as she noticed Nathan's distracted demeanor during dinner and the lingering melancholy in his eyes when he thought no one was watching. Meanwhile, Olivia herself felt the conflicting pressures of her new reality. Her days at the office, once dominated by routine tasks and quiet perseverance, were now marked by the challenge of proving her worth to a skeptical corporate culture. Although her work on the pilot project had earned her nods of approval from some of the company's senior executives, the unexpected attention also brought with it whispers and sideways glances that reminded her of how far she was from the world she once knew. Every evening, as she made her habitual journey to the small market and then on to her nightly ritual of helping the homeless, a part of her felt both emboldened and painfully exposed. The contrast between the respect she earned during meetings and the quiet judgment of her peers weighed heavily on her, stirring doubts about whether she truly belonged in this world of polished boardrooms and high-stakes decisions. One drizzly afternoon, after a particularly tense meeting where the board had questioned the viability of her project, Olivia found herself standing alone by a rain-streaked window on the 35th floor. The patter of droplets against the glass mirrored the steady rhythm of her troubled heartbeat. She recalled the supportive words Nathan had offered during their private conversation, words that had filled her with cautious optimism, and wondered if she could continue to defy the odds. Yet, the sting of criticism and the isolation of her humble beginnings gnawed at her resolve. As she stared out at the city, a profound loneliness settled in, a reminder that despite her professional successes, she still felt like an outsider in a world built for those born into privilege. Across town, Nathan struggled with his own internal conflicts. In the quiet solitude of his penthouse office, surrounded by the trappings of success, a meticulously organized desk, awards lining the shelves, and the perpetual glow of New York's skyline, he wrestled with memories of his past and the realization that his life was becoming a battleground of competing loyalties. On one hand, there was the secure, predictable comfort of his marriage with Laura, a relationship built over years of shared dreams and stability. On the other, there was the raw, magnetic pull he felt toward Olivia, whose sincerity and compassion challenged everything he had come to value in his meticulously controlled world. The more he tried to compartmentalize his feelings, the more they spilled over into his thoughts, leaving him restless and unable to concentrate on the corporate battles that once defined him. The turning point came on a chilly evening at the company's annual gala, a glittering event held in a grand ballroom with soaring ceilings and dazzling crystal chandeliers. As Nathan mingled with the influential guests and corporate dignitaries, his gaze involuntarily drifted toward Olivia, who was present as part of the newly formed quality team. Dressed in a modest outfit that still bore the unmistakable traces of her former self, Olivia seemed both out of place and extraordinarily genuine among the glittering elite. Every time their eyes met, a silent tension passed between them, a mixture of unspoken understanding and the painful awareness of what their connection might cost. After the gala, Nathan returned home to find Laura waiting in the quiet of their lavish living room. The atmosphere was heavy with unasked questions. Laura's eyes, usually so warm and reassuring, now brimmed with uncertainty and hurt. "Nathan," she began hesitantly, "I feel like you're somewhere else these days. I miss you." Her words struck him like a jolt of electricity, forcing him to confront the truth he had been trying to avoid. In that moment, Nathan realized that the consequences of his divided attention were beginning to erode the foundation of his marriage. Though he had long justified his singular focus on work, he now understood that his heart was being pulled in two directions, a duality that threatened to unravel everything he had built. Torn between his duty to Laura and the burgeoning, undeniable feelings for Olivia, Nathan made a silent promise to himself that night. He would not let the pressures of corporate ambition or the distractions of a forbidden connection destroy what was most important. Yet, even as he resolved to mend the rift at home, he couldn't ignore the fact that his professional decisions were being questioned at every turn. In board meetings, his new initiative, championed by Olivia's undeniable talent, was both lauded and criticized, and Nathan found himself caught in a cycle of defending his choices while grappling with his own internal doubts. As the days blurred into weeks, the collision of personal and professional realms became increasingly intense. Nathan and Olivia continued their discreet interactions, exchanging glances in crowded hallways and speaking in hushed tones during private meetings. Every encounter carried the weight of possibility and the threat of scandal, intensifying the internal struggle within them both. For Olivia, each moment of recognition was a reminder of her worth, yet also a painful reminder of how out of place she sometimes felt. For Nathan, every smile from her rekindled a spark of hope, but also deepened the chasm between his carefully constructed public persona and the vulnerable truth of his emotions. In a particularly quiet moment, one late evening, when the city was wrapped in a gentle mist and the world seemed to hold its breath, Nathan found himself alone in his study. The silence was broken only by the soft ticking of a clock on the wall, and as he gazed at the city lights, he felt the weight of his choices pressing down upon him. He knew that the path he was on, fraught with risk and uncertainty, might ultimately redefine everything he had ever known. With a heavy heart, he resolved that the coming days would demand hard truths, difficult decisions, and the courage to embrace a future that might not conform to his old rules. In the days that followed the public fallout and intense internal debates at Miller Enterprises, the atmosphere around Olivia Reed began to shift. The scandal that once threatened to upend her life gradually subsided as investigations revealed that the discrepancies in the financial reports were not the result of her actions, but rather stemmed from a systemic error. With the truth emerging, whispers in the hallways turned into quiet nods of respect, and the once critical gazes softened into expressions of genuine admiration. Despite the turbulence, Olivia had proven her worth, not just as a diligent employee, but as a woman of remarkable insight and compassion who dared to act on her convictions. Meanwhile, Nathan Drake, the stoic yet increasingly vulnerable CEO, found himself wrestling with the consequences of his growing attachment to Olivia. His relentless pursuit of corporate success had long shielded him from personal entanglements, but the selfless actions of Olivia had awakened a part of him he thought long dead. The memories of her unwavering kindness, her daily ritual of helping those less fortunate, echoed in his mind with every board meeting and every quiet moment in his spacious modern office. The scandal had forced him to re-examine his values, and now he was determined to champion integrity both in business and in love. The turning point came one chilly Friday evening when, after another long day of quiet office corridors and hushed exchanges, Olivia received an unexpected invitation. A message from Nathan arrived on her phone. "Penthouse, 8 p.m. Let's talk." The message, brief and direct, set her heart pounding with a mixture of trepidation and anticipation. That night, as dark clouds gathered over the city and the first droplets of rain began to fall, Olivia hesitated only a moment before deciding to answer the call. Dressed in her modest uniform that now bore the marks of her struggle and perseverance, she made her way up to the penthouse, her footsteps echoing softly against the polished floors. When Olivia arrived, Nathan was waiting by the expansive windows of his penthouse, the city lights flickering in the distance. The room was bathed in the warm glow of strategically placed lamps, and a gentle rain pattered against the glass, lending a reflective quality to the scene. Nathan's face, usually so controlled and resolute, now held a trace of vulnerability that belied his polished exterior. As Olivia stepped forward, he met her gaze with a sincerity that made the world around them fall away. "Olivia," Nathan began, his voice steady yet imbued with a deep, resonant emotion, "these past few months have changed everything for me. I've seen you work tirelessly, not just for the company, but for those who need it the most. I've witnessed the strength of your compassion, and it's forced me to rethink what truly matters in life." He paused, letting his words hang in the air. "In a world where numbers and profit margins rule, you've shown me that true value is measured in kindness, in integrity, and in the courage to stand by your convictions." Olivia's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, her heart racing as she listened. The pain of the past, the isolation, the doubts, the whispers that had once haunted her seemed to melt away in the presence of his earnest declaration. "I've always believed that small acts can change lives," she replied softly. "I never did it for recognition. I did it because it was the right thing to do." Her voice trembled with a mix of humility and newfound strength. Nathan stepped closer, the distance between them shrinking until their hands met. "I want to honor that," he said, his grip firm yet gentle. "I want to build a future that isn't defined solely by business or by what society expects of us, but by the truth of who we are. Olivia, I know you never asked for any of this, the attention, the opportunity, even my interest, but I can't imagine a future without you. Your selflessness has transformed me, and I want to transform our lives together." The silence that followed was heavy with emotion. In that quiet, charged moment, every doubt and every fear dissolved into a clear, undeniable truth. For the first time in his life, Nathan allowed himself to dream of a life where compassion and love reigned above all else, a life where he could finally be vulnerable and real. And Olivia, looking into his determined eyes, felt the weight of the past lift, replaced by a stirring hope that she, too, could belong in a world that had once seemed so distant. As the rain softened outside, Nathan took a deep breath and continued, "Olivia Reed, will you share this journey with me? Will you allow me the honor of not just protecting what you stand for, but of building a life where our values create a legacy that transcends everything else?" In that moment, beneath the gentle cascade of city lights and the rhythmic tapping of rain against glass, Olivia felt her heart swell with an emotion she had long kept at bay. With a trembling smile and tears of joy shining in her eyes, she whispered, "Yes, Nathan, I'll share this journey with you." Their words, simple yet profound, resonated like a promise, one that would redefine their futures and challenge the very definitions of success and worth. In the days that followed, the transformation was palpable. The boardroom controversies began to subside as Nathan's commitment to integrity reshaped the company's culture, and Olivia emerged not only as a respected consultant but as a symbol of resilience and genuine care. The gossip and skepticism faded into the background, replaced by an emerging legacy of compassion and reform. By embracing their shared path, Nathan and Olivia discovered that true success wasn't measured in dollars or accolades, but in the strength of one's heart and the willingness to care for others. Their journey, born from an unexpected encounter and nurtured through trials, both personal and professional, had forged a bond that promised to endure. In that new dawn, as the first light of spring shimmered over the city, they stepped forward together, ready to build a legacy defined by love, compassion, and the unyielding belief that every act of kindness has the power to change lives forever.